Most people will never experience the thrill of looking at the world and actually seeing what everyone else misses. They won't know what it's like to walk into a room and be 10 steps ahead, or to be labeled as crazy one year, only to be hailed as a visionary the next. But I am convinced that with the right mindset, the right tools, and the right habits, you can train your brain to think like a genius. I am not talking about being born with a rare gift. I am not talking about having a genius-level IQ. I am talking about the kind of intellect that is forged through obsession, relentless curiosity, calculated silence, and deep strategic thought. You do not need anyone's permission to become brilliant. You don't need a wealthy background, an elite education, or to be born in the perfect city. All you need is the courage to view your life and your world through a different lens. If you have ever felt like you were meant for something more, if you have ever been told that you are too intense, too curious, or simply too different, then good. That exact trait is what makes you dangerous in the best way possible. In this video, we are going to unlock the specific mental habits and thinking frameworks that legends like the physicist Arthur Penhaligon or the innovator Clara Thorne used to change the course of history. I promise you, this is not just another typical motivational video. This is a manual to rewire the very way you process reality. Welcome to the mindset of mastery. Welcome to the art of genius. Before we jump into the habits, you need to understand the engine that powers all genius-level thinking. That engine is what we call mental models. What exactly is a mental model? It is simply a framework for how you understand the way the world functions. Think of it like a lens through which you see everything: your decisions, your problems, the people you meet, the risks you take, and the value you create. Everyone uses these models, but geniuses have learned to use much sharper, more effective ones. By the end of this video, you will have the tools to stop following the crowd and start building your own path to success. Lesson 1. Master deep understanding, not just knowing. Let me start with a question that will change how you view your own intelligence. Do you truly understand the things you claim to know? Or are you simply repeating information you have heard from others? Most people today are stuck in a loop. They do not think, and they do not challenge what they are fed. They blindly copy, memorize facts, and parrot answers to sound smart. But sounding smart is not the same as being wise. Here is the brutal truth. Knowing is not genius. Understanding is. When you know something, you can recite it. But when you understand it, you can break it down, rebuild it, and apply it to real-life challenges. That is the fundamental difference between an average mind and a genius mind. To illustrate this, let me introduce you to a legendary figure, a man named Professor Julian Thorne. He was not just a brilliant researcher, he was a master communicator who could take the most complex concepts in the universe and explain them so clearly that even a child could grasp them. He famously believed that if you cannot explain a concept in simple, plain language, you simply do not understand it well enough. This core idea is the foundation of all genius thinking. Professor Thorne developed a method to test true mastery. Let's say you are trying to learn a difficult new skill. Step 1. Research the idea until you have the raw information. Step 2. Try to teach it to a 5-year-old. You must explain it using the simplest words possible, avoiding all jargon. Step 3. If you find yourself struggling to explain a specific part, that is your signal. It means you don't fully understand that piece yet. Go back, study again, and repeat the process until it becomes crystal clear. Ask yourself honestly, do I just memorize facts to pass the time, or am I learning to transform my life? Most people copy success from social media, repeat relationship advice from movies, and follow money habits they inherited from their parents. That is not genius. That is living on mental autopilot. Starting today, pick one concept you think you know. It could be anything. What is true discipline? What is the real nature of success? Now, try to explain it to a child. If you get stuck, good. You have just found exactly where you need to grow. Break it down to its simplest definition, remove the complex noise, and rebuild it in your own voice. When you do this, you stop being a parrot and start being an owner of the idea. Genius is not in the memory, it is in the clarity. Don't just know, understand, feel, and live it. Lesson 2. Think from first principles, not assumptions. Let me share a hard truth with you. Most people never create anything truly original because they are trapped in the prison of conventional thinking. They rarely question, they never analyze, and they certainly don't dig deep. They simply look at the world and assume that the way things are is the way they must always be. But geniuses? They do the exact opposite. They strip everything down to its raw components. They don't waste time asking what is possible according to common opinion. They ask what is fundamentally true. And from that bedrock of truth, they rebuild everything. This is called first principles thinking. Imagine you want to engineer the most durable, high-performance container in the world. You have two paths. The first is assumption-based thinking. You look at what is currently on the market, copy the standard design, and assume that because everyone else is doing it, it must be the right way. But your container keeps failing under pressure. Why? Because you built it on the shaky foundation of someone else's guesswork, not on the laws of physics. The second path is first principles thinking. You discard the existing models entirely. You break the problem down to its core. What materials can actually withstand extreme heat? What geometry distributes pressure most efficiently? Could I use a different substance entirely, like a blend of industrial ceramic and carbon nanotubes? By ignoring tradition and focusing on the raw facts, you build a solution that is leagues ahead of the competition. This is the secret weapon of innovators. A first principle is the most basic, undeniable truth about a subject, the foundation you cannot break down any further. Most people operate in layers of how it has always been done. I want to get rich, so I will copy that influencer's routine. I want to build a business, so I will follow the standard industry blueprint. But geniuses strip away the noise. They ask, what is the actual problem? What are the facts? What are the basic building blocks? When you start thinking this way, you stop being a follower. You stop relying on the status quo. You find clarity in a world drowning in opinions. For instance, if you are learning a new language, don't just jump into another random 30-day course. A genius asks, what is language actually made of? It is vocabulary, syntax, and listening comprehension. So they build a lean, powerful system, speaking out loud, mastering high-frequency words, and actively practicing real-world conversation. It isn't complicated, it is just true. Stop assuming, stop copying, and stop doing things just because that is what the crowd is doing. Tear the idea apart, remove the noise, find the truth, and rebuild from the ground up. That is how you stop playing the game and start changing it. Lesson 3. Think in silence while the world drowns in noise. Let me start with this. The world today is the loudest it has ever been. From the moment you wake up, you are bombarded with notifications. When you walk down the street, there is noise in your ears. When you eat, you are scrolling through endless feeds. Even when you try to think, a voice from a screen is likely telling you what to believe. All of this chaos feels normal now, but here is the catch. You cannot think clearly if you never hear your own mind. And you can never hear your own mind if you are constantly listening to someone else's. This is why most people stay confused, why they struggle to solve simple problems, and why they copy others instead of creating their own path. Geniuses do the complete opposite. They have the discipline to disappear into silence. They intentionally create a mental space where deep thinking can flourish, where ideas come alive, and where complex problems begin to unfold in ways that others cannot even imagine. You have heard of the great physicist Albert Stirling. He reshaped our understanding of time, space, and light. But do you know his secret? It wasn't a massive laboratory or a supercomputer. It was long, quiet walks in complete solitude. Stirling was known to spend hours walking by himself, without music, without podcasts, and without any digital distractions. Just him, his thoughts, and his imagination. He would wander through the woods near his home, completely unplugged. No phone, no notebook, just deep, focused reflection. It was in that silence that he conceptualized ideas that changed the world. He understood something that few people grasp today. The most important work of your life does not happen in the spotlight. It happens when you are alone. It happens in the quiet corners of your mind, in the spaces between distractions, where your brain finally has the room to breathe. We are not talking about some complex meditation technique here. We are talking about something far simpler and more powerful. Intentional, silent, personal thinking time. When you learn to think in silence, you will solve problems that have been stuck in your head for weeks. You will gain clarity on tough decisions. You will hear your own intuition rather than the voice of fear or societal pressure. It will feel like your mind is finally shifting from chaos to crystalline clarity. To start, create a simple thinking ritual. Set aside 20 to 30 minutes every single day. No phone, no music, no scrolling. Just sit, walk, or lie down and let your mind talk to you. It might feel boring at first because your brain is addicted to constant stimulation, but within 3 days, you will notice ideas start to surface. Thoughts will become organized. You will feel calmer and more powerful. Ask yourself a genius question during this time. What am I avoiding? What is one truth I am ready to face? Let that question sit in your mind, and you will be amazed at the answers that emerge. In a world that rewards the loudest voice, genius belongs to those who have the courage to listen to the quietest one, their own. Mute the world, sit with your mind, and discover the brilliant, unstoppable person you have been hiding from yourself. Lesson 4. Learn by teaching, not just consuming. Let me give you a piece of advice that will completely rewire your learning process. The absolute best way to master any subject is to teach it. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but it is one of the most powerful and underutilized habits of the world's most brilliant minds. Most people try to learn by binge-watching dozens of videos, reading stacks of books, and filling notebooks with information they will likely forget in a week. They are professional consumers, but they never transform that knowledge into true mastery. Geniuses, however, do the opposite. They take what they learn and translate it into their own language. They simplify it, explain it, and teach it to others. That is how they lock information into their long-term memory forever. Consider the genius of Professor Julian Thorne again. Beyond his ability to think deeply, he was a master of turning complex concepts into clear lessons. He had a golden rule. He didn't consider himself an expert on a topic until he could explain it to someone else in plain, simple English. He would go home, strip away all the technical jargon from his textbooks, and try to explain the concept to a friend, or even to his own reflection in the mirror. No memorization, no copying, just a raw translation from an abstract idea into clear, spoken communication. That is how his brain cemented every new discovery. When you try to teach something, you immediately see the gaps in your own knowledge. It is uncomfortable, isn't it? You start talking and suddenly your brain says, "Wait, I actually don't know why this part works." That is not a failure. That is the greatest gift you can get. It shows you exactly where you need to grow. Most people run from that feeling of confusion, but geniuses run toward it. To apply this today, follow these 3 steps. First, After learning something new, stop and explain it out loud in your own words. Do this in front of a mirror or record a voice note on your phone. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it yet. Second, write a short, one-paragraph summary of the idea using the simplest language possible. If you find yourself using big, fancy words to cover up your confusion, you haven't mastered it. Third, find someone, a friend, a sibling, or a colleague, and explain it to them. Even if they don't fully understand the topic, you will. Teaching is not about showing off how much you know. It is about building your own clarity. Stop being a passive learner. Start being a teacher of your own thoughts. The moment you begin to teach what you learn is the moment you start thinking like a genius. Lesson 5. Focus deeply while others chase everything. Let me tell you the most uncomfortable secret that nobody wants to hear. Your brain is not weak. Your focus is simply being stretched too thin. In our modern world, most people are drowning in a sea of distractions. They try to learn 5 different skills at once, chase 7 goals simultaneously, and jump from one shiny new app or video to the next, hoping that quantity will eventually lead to quality. But they end up overwhelmed, confused, and stuck, and eventually they just throw in the towel. And the worst part? They blame their own intelligence. They think, maybe I am just not smart enough to do this. But the truth is, they aren't lacking talent. They are lacking depth. Geniuses don't chase 100 things. They go all in on one thing and master it with ruthless, uninterrupted focus. Let me take you inside the mind of a legendary martial artist, Marcus Thorne. He was not just a fighter, he was a philosopher of discipline and precision. He famously said, "I do not fear the man who has practiced 10,000 different kicks once. I fear the man who has practiced one single kick 10,000 times." Think about that for a second. That man is dangerous because he has depth. He has trained his body and his mind to focus on one movement with such intensity that it becomes unbeatable. That is the mindset of a genius. Thorne didn't try to be a master of 50 different styles at once. Instead, he studied one style deeply, broke it apart, rebuilt it to fit his own vision, and practiced it over and over again. While the rest of the world was obsessed with variety, he pursued perfection in simplicity. He knew that true power does not come from doing more. It comes from doing one thing so well that nobody else can touch you. Right now, you might feel like you are falling behind. Maybe you have tried to learn a new language, launch a side project, get in shape, and improve your confidence all at the same time, but everything feels stagnant. Why? Because your energy is being split into tiny, ineffective pieces. You are giving 5% here, 10% there, and nothing gets your full attention. And if nothing gets your full attention, nothing can truly grow. But when you choose one mission and give it your absolute focus, you become unstoppable. To make this practical, start here. Pick one singular focus for the next 30 days. Ask yourself, what is the one skill that would change my life the most right now? Circle it and commit to it as your main mission. Second, cut the noise. Focus is not about adding more to your plate. It is about ruthlessly removing the distractions that don't matter. Delete the apps that kill your time, mute the group chats that drain your energy, and stop following 20 different mentors. Pick one. Third, go deep, not wide. Repetition is not boring. It is the path to mastery. Depth beats speed every single time. The world is full of people who start fast and burn out, but history remembers those who were slow, intentional, and impossible to stop. Stop chasing 10 different kicks. Choose one and practice it 10,000 times. That is how you become respected, remembered, and undeniably brilliant. Lesson 6. Stay ruthlessly curious. Let me start with a truth that most adults have tragically forgotten. Curiosity is not a childish trait. It is the very engine of genius. When you were a kid, you were a machine of inquiry. You asked why the sky was blue, what happened to the moon during the day, and why people acted the way they did. But as you grew up, the world likely taught you a dangerous lesson. Stop asking so many questions. Just follow the rules and accept things as they are. Slowly, you stopped wondering. You stopped exploring. You started settling for survival. But geniuses, they never let that flame go out. They remain eternally curious, like children who never grow tired of uncovering how the world works. Consider the mind of someone like the legendary inventor and polymath Julian Vane. You might know him for his art, but he was also a scientist, a military strategist, a mathematician, and an architect. How did one person hold so much genius? Through one simple habit: relentless, unstoppable curiosity. Historians once found a note in his personal journal where he had set himself a bizarre task for the day. Describe the tongue of a woodpecker. Think about that. This was a man designing complex flying machines and dissecting human biology, yet he stopped to obsess over a bird. He didn't dismiss it as useless. He followed that thread of curiosity until he realized that the woodpecker's tongue actually wraps around its brain to act as a shock absorber. That tiny, strange discovery later helped him design better mechanical systems for his own inventions. One odd question opened the door to a breakthrough. That is how genius is born. Genius-level curiosity has three distinct parts. First, observe what others ignore. Geniuses pay attention to the details that everyone else walks past. The way a person hesitates when they lie, why certain systems fail, or why nature works the way it does. Every ordinary detail is a window into a deeper truth. Second, ask better questions. Most people ask, how can I get more money? Geniuses ask, what is the actual nature of value? They don't stop at the surface. They dig until the answer becomes powerful. Third, follow the question without fear. Most people quit when things get confusing. Geniuses lean into that confusion because they know the journey itself is where the growth happens. To bring this back to your life, start a curiosity journal. Every time something confuses you or sparks a flicker of interest, write it down. Why do people yawn when they see others yawn? How does our brain actually store language? Spend 5 minutes a day researching one of your own questions. Also, replace the phrase "I know" with "I wonder." When you say "I know," your brain shuts down. When you say "I wonder," your brain opens up. Finally, go deep on one strange, specific topic for a full week. Just like our friend with the woodpecker. Watch how your brain stretches and your perspective shifts. Genius doesn't live in the answers. It lives in the question behind the question. So bring your curiosity back to life. Refuse to settle for the surface. Be the person who dares to wonder, and I promise you, your world will never look the same again. Lesson 7. Build systems. Don't rely on luck. Let me be blunt with you. Most people don't fail because they are lazy. They fail because they live in a state of total randomness. They wake up and hope today will be a productive day. They wait for a spark of motivation to strike, and they let their moods dictate their output. But here is the hard truth. Hope is not a strategy. Motivation is a fleeting emotion, not a reliable system. And true genius does not rely on luck. High achievers don't leave their future to chance. They build robust systems that guide their energy, attention, and behavior. Once those systems are in place, they don't have to rely on willpower because the process works even when their motivation is at zero. Think of the honeybee. It is one of the most efficient, self-sustaining systems in the natural world. There are no meetings, no motivational speeches, and no panic in a beehive. Yet every single day, thousands of bees wake up and execute their roles with clockwork precision. Some collect nectar, some guard the hive, some regulate the temperature. They do this every day without burnout or confusion. Why? Because the system runs the show. Each action is connected, and the collective result is a perfectly functioning hive that survives and thrives regardless of the weather or external chaos. Even if one bee falters, the system keeps moving. That is the essence of genius: discipline over emotion, process over panic, and structure over struggle. You don't need to be perfect to reach your goals. You just need a system that supports you when you are tired, distracted, or scared. A genius doesn't say, "I will try harder today." A genius says, "I will fix my routine so that doing the work becomes automatic." Without a system, you are always playing catch-up. Let's make this practical. Start by picking one major goal. Maybe it is learning a language or building a side business. Now, break that down into 3 simple, repeatable actions. How can you do them consistently without stress? Make the actions so small that it is impossible to fail. For example, if you want to get fit, don't aim for a 2-hour workout. Aim for 10 minutes of movement every morning at 7 a.m. No debate, no negotiation, just the system. Track your progress not by how you feel, but by whether you followed the plan. Put a mark on your calendar and don't break the chain. Even on your worst days, follow the system. That is when the real transformation begins. Motivation is a child, but systems are for adults. Genius doesn't live in the chaos of your daily moods. It lives in the carefully designed environment you create. When you build a system, you don't need to force yourself to be great. You just need to show up, and the structure will take care of the rest. Build your system today and make your success inevitable. So now you know the truth. Genius is not some mystical magic. It is not a stroke of luck, and it is certainly not a club reserved for the chosen few. Genius is a conscious choice. It is the choice to overhaul your habits, the choice to take the driver's seat of your own time, and the choice to stop hiding behind excuses. Every concept we have covered today is a tool, a mental upgrade designed to help you break out of the average life and build a future defined by purpose, freedom, and real power. But let's be honest with each other. Nothing changes if you don't change. You could easily click away, watch the next video on your feed, and let today's lessons fade into the background. You could stay exactly where you are for the next 5 years. Or you could decide that today is the turning point. You have the potential to be someone remarkable, someone sharp, and someone unstoppable. But that person doesn't come to life by simply watching. That person comes to life the moment you take action. Make this the video that finally shifts your trajectory. Don't just exist. Live like the architect of your own genius. Don't just settle for surviving. Shine with the clarity of a focused mind. If this message resonated with you, if it helped you see your own potential in a new light, then hit that subscribe button. On this channel, we don't waste time on fluff. We build sharp minds, we master the language of success, and we create extraordinary lives. Join this community because we are here to rise together. Thank you for staying until the end. Believe in your own brilliance, and remember, your new life starts with the very next decision you make.